My name is Emma Collins, and I'm 17 years old. What I'm about to tell you sounds impossible, like something from a horror movie, but every word is true. Last winter, my own mother locked me outside in a deadly blizzard wearing nothing but pajamas and bare feet, then called our neighbors to make sure no one would help me. This is the story of how I survived the worst night of my life and what happened to my family afterward. Growing up in our small house on Cedar Lane, life hadn't always been this nightmare. My mom, Rachel Collins, raised my younger brother Jake and me alone after our father left when I was 9 and Jake was 6. In those early years, Mom was our hero. She worked double shifts at the diner, never missed our school plays, and somehow always made our birthdays feel magical even when money was tight. I remember her reading bedtime stories and telling us we could be anything we wanted. My brilliant girl, she'd call me when I brought home straight A's. My little artist, she'd say to Jake when he showed her his drawings. The change happened slowly, so gradually I barely noticed at first. It started during my junior year when college became a real possibility. Teachers began mentioning scholarships and guidance counselors talked about my potential. But every time someone praised my achievements, Mom's smile would get a little tighter. "Don't get ahead of yourself," she'd say. "College is expensive, and not everyone gets to leave." By my senior year, Mom's drinking had gotten worse. What started as a glass of wine with dinner became half a bottle, then a whole bottle. Her eyes, once bright with determination, now looked cloudy and distant most evenings. I took over cooking, cleaning, and helping Jake with homework while watching Mom spiral deeper into bitterness. The breaking point came in January when my acceptance letters started arriving. I'd applied to several colleges with good scholarship programs, including State University, which offered a full ride. I tried to hide the letters, checking the mail before Mom got home from work, but one day I was late getting back from my job at the library. I walked into our kitchen to find Mom sitting at the table with 3 opened envelopes spread in front of her, all bearing university letterheads. "Interesting mail today," she said, her voice unnaturally calm. "State University, Portland State, Seattle University. Quite the secret you've been keeping." My heart sank. "Mom, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been lying to me? Planning to abandon your family after everything I've sacrificed." Her voice was rising now. "I gave up everything for you kids. I could have had my own life, my own dreams, but I stayed here to take care of you. I'm not abandoning anyone," I said carefully. "I just want to go to college. The state scholarship covers everything, tuition, room, board. I wouldn't cost you anything." "What about Jake? What about me? Who's going to take care of us while you're off living your dream?" She stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "You think you're better than me, don't you? Too good for this house, this town, this family." "That's not true," I pleaded. "I just want an education. I want to build a future." "A future without us," she spat. "Just like your father. Selfish. Only thinking about yourself." The comparison to my father hit like a slap. We argued for another hour, Mom bringing up every mistake I'd ever made, every time she felt I'd disappointed her. Jake tried to intervene once, but Mom turned on him too, accusing him of taking my side against her. That night, I went to bed with the acceptance letters hidden under my mattress and the weather forecast warning of a massive blizzard heading our way. Neither Jake nor I realized that both storms, the one outside and the one brewing in Mom, were about to collide. I woke the next morning to howling wind and a world transformed into white chaos. School was canceled, and the weather service was telling people to stay indoors unless absolutely necessary. Downstairs, I found Mom already awake, still in yesterday's clothes, nursing coffee at the kitchen table with an empty wine bottle nearby. "Morning," I said cautiously, moving toward the cabinet for cereal. Mom didn't respond, just watched me with bloodshot eyes. The silence felt dangerous. "Looks like we might lose power," I finally said. "Should we check our emergency supplies?" "Already handled it," Mom replied, her voice flat. "I'm still capable of taking care of this family, despite what you think." When Jake came downstairs, the tension was thick enough to cut. After he ate and went back upstairs, Mom pulled out my state university acceptance letter. Full scholarship, she read aloud. Congratulations on your exceptional achievement. We look forward to welcoming you this fall. She looked up at me with narrowed eyes. Were you even going to tell me, or just disappear one day? Of course I was going to tell you. I wanted to wait until I heard from all the schools. There are no schools, she interrupted. You're staying here. This family needs you. Mom, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I could help support the family better with a college degree. What about now? What about Jake? What about me? She stood up, her face flushed with anger. Who's going to take care of us while you're off having the college experience I never got? Jake is 13, not 3. And you have a job. You don't need me to. I don't need you, she shouted, slamming her hand on the table. After everything I've done for you, the sacrifices I've made, you can't wait to leave us behind, just like your father. The argument escalated from there, with Mom's accusations becoming more outlandish and cruel. She called me ungrateful, selfish, a traitor to the family. Through it all, the blizzard raged outside, trapping us together with nowhere to cool down. If you want independence so badly, Mom finally spat, maybe you should go find it. What does that mean? It means I'm sick of your attitude. Sick of your superiority complex. Go to your room. I can't even look at you right now. Exhausted and defeated, I retreated upstairs. Jake followed, his face pale with worry. She doesn't mean it, he whispered as we sat on my bed. She's just scared. I know, I sighed, though I wasn't entirely sure anymore. The look in Mom's eyes had been something beyond fear, something that looked disturbingly like hatred. Around 4:30 p.m., as early winter darkness was falling, Mom knocked on my bedroom door. Emma, she called, her voice surprisingly normal. Can you help me bring in some groceries from the car? I went shopping this morning before the roads got too bad. I glanced at Jake, who shrugged. Maybe this was Mom's way of making peace. Sure, I called back. Be right down. I was still in my pajamas, fleece pants, and a thermal long-sleeve shirt, since there had been no reason to get dressed. I hadn't even put on socks. Aren't you going to put on shoes? Jake asked as I reached for the door. Just running to the car and back, I said. No big deal. Downstairs, Mom was waiting by the front door, car keys in hand. She was fully dressed in winter gear, coat, boots, gloves. The contrast with my pajamas should have been a warning, but I was so relieved the fighting had stopped that I didn't question it. There are a few heavy bags in the trunk, she said without looking at me directly. I got most of them, but I need help with the rest. I nodded and followed her to the door. When she opened it, a blast of Arctic air hit me, making me gasp. The snow was falling heavily, already piled over a foot deep on our front lawn. Maybe I should put on boots first, I suggested, hesitating. The car's right there, Mom said impatiently, pointing to her sedan in the driveway. It'll take 2 seconds. Don't be so dramatic. Not wanting to restart the argument, I stepped outside onto the porch, wincing as my bare feet touched the freezing wood. I moved quickly down the steps, my feet sinking into the snow as I headed toward the car. Which side are the groceries on? I called over my shoulder, already shivering. There was no answer. Instead, I heard the sound of our front door closing. Confused, I turned around just in time to see Mom's face through the window beside the door. Her expression wasn't angry anymore. It was completely emotionless as she deliberately turned the deadbolt. For a moment, I stood frozen in shock. This had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. I rushed back to the porch and knocked on the door. Mom, the door closed. Let me in. Through the window, I could see her still standing there, watching me. Mom, I called louder, knocking harder. It's freezing out here. Open the door. She moved closer to the window, her face inches from the glass. Figure it out yourself if you're so smart, she said, her voice muffled but audible. You want independence? Here it is. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This was intentional. You can't be serious, I gasped. It's below zero. There's a blizzard. You've made it very clear you don't need me, she replied coldly. So prove it. Mom, please, I begged. pounding on the door. "This isn't funny. Let me in." "Maybe this will teach you some gratitude," she said, then stepped away from the window and disappeared into the house. "Jake!" I screamed, hoping my brother would hear and help me. "Jake!" I thought I saw movement at his bedroom window, but the curtain quickly fell back. Had Mom threatened him too? The full danger of my situation began to sink in. The temperature was well below freezing and dropping. The snow was falling so heavily I could barely see across the street. I was wearing only thin pajamas, and my feet were already going numb. I tried all our windows, but they were locked. The garage door was electronic with no manual override. Even our garden shed, which was usually unlocked, had been secured, confirming that Mom had planned this thoroughly. I had no choice but to seek help from neighbors. Surely someone would help a teenager locked out in a blizzard. The Hendersons lived across the street. I waded through the knee-deep snow, my feet burning with cold, leaving a trail of footprints that quickly filled with fresh snowfall. By the time I reached their door, I couldn't feel my legs below the knees. I rang the doorbell frantically. Through their window, I saw Mrs. Henderson peek through the curtains. Our eyes met, and I gestured desperately at my bare feet and pajamas. She disappeared from view, and for a moment hope surged, but the door remained closed. I rang again, knocking harder. This time, no one appeared at all. Confused and increasingly desperate, I moved to the next house, the Yamadas. Mr. Yamada came to the door, but spoke to me through it without opening it. "Go home, Emma," he said, his voice uncomfortable. "Your mother called. We can't get involved in family matters." "She locked me out in a blizzard." I cried. "I don't have shoes. Please, just let me use your phone." "Your mother said you might say something like that. She's worried about your mental state. Go home and work it out with her." "She won't let me in." "That's enough, Emma. Don't make us call the police." Defeated, I turned away. Mom had called the neighbors. She'd told them not to help me. House after house, the pattern repeated. The Chengs, the Johnsons, the Parkers, all had received calls from my mother. All turned me away. Some seemed genuinely conflicted, but none would open their doors. By now, I'd been outside for over an hour in sub-zero temperatures. My thoughts were becoming clouded, my movements clumsy. I recognized the signs of hypothermia from health class. I was running out of time. At the end of our street stood a house I barely knew. The mailbox read Morrison. They were new to the neighborhood. Maybe Mom hadn't called them yet. I staggered up their walkway, my movements mechanical and unsteady. When I raised my hand to knock, I barely had the strength left. Instead, I leaned against the doorbell, using my body weight to keep it ringing. The porch light came on and the door opened. A middle-aged man with kind eyes looked out, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm. "Oh my God," he breathed. "Sarah, call 911. A woman appeared behind him. "What's wrong?" "Help," I whispered, then collapsed. I drifted back to consciousness wrapped in blankets on their couch, with Sarah Morrison, a nurse, I learned, carefully examining my feet while her husband Tom hovered anxiously nearby. "Her core temperature is dangerously low," Sarah was saying. "We need to warm her gradually. I'm more worried about frostbite." "How long was she out there?"
Tom asked. "No idea."
"She just collapsed on our doorstep." When I was able to speak coherently, I explained what had happened. The Morrisons listened with growing horror. "Your mother deliberately locked you out?" Sarah asked. "In this weather?" I nodded weakly. "College fight. She called neighbors, told them not to help." "We just moved in last week," Tom said grimly. "She didn't call us." The paramedics arrived despite the storm, and I was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was severe hypothermia and second-degree frostbite on both feet, but the doctor said I'd keep all my toes, barely. At the hospital, police officers took my statement while social workers made arrangements for Jake, who was placed with our Aunt Lisa. Mom was arrested and charged with child endangerment and reckless endangerment. The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming: my medical records, statements from neighbors confirming Mom's calls, testimony from the Morrisons about my condition. Mom was sentenced to 18 months in prison and lost custody of both Jake and me. During the proceedings, she showed no real remorse. I was teaching her a lesson about family loyalty, she told the judge. I didn't think it would go that far. The judge wasn't impressed. Mrs. Collins, you nearly killed your own daughter. There's no lesson worth that. Jake and I moved in with Aunt Lisa, whose small apartment became our sanctuary. With help from victim services and the kindness of strangers like the Morrisons, who became like surrogate parents, I finished high school and prepared for college. The state university scholarship was still waiting for me. The admissions office had been incredibly understanding, even providing additional crisis support funding. Mrs. Patterson, my guidance counselor, helped me navigate the financial aid process while I recovered. My physical healing was difficult. For months, I needed crutches as my frostbitten feet recovered. Even now, a year later, 2 toes on my right foot occasionally tingle or go numb, a permanent reminder of that night. But Dr. Kim, my specialist, said I was lucky. Most people with frostbite this severe lose some tissue, he told me. Your youth and the quick first aid from the Morrisons saved your feet. The emotional healing took longer. Nightmares plagued me for months. Dreams of pounding on doors that never opened, of slowly freezing while faces watched through windows. Dr. Rodriguez, my therapist, helped me understand that what happened wasn't my fault, that wanting an education didn't justify what my mother did. Your mother's actions that night weren't really about you or college, she explained. They were about her own unresolved issues, her alcoholism, her regrets, possibly undiagnosed mental illness. Understanding this doesn't excuse what she did, but it can help you stop blaming yourself. Jake struggled too, carrying guilt about not being able to help me that night. Through family therapy, he learned that at 13, facing an out-of-control adult, staying safe was the right choice. Mom served her full sentence, refusing the court-mandated treatment programs. She sent one letter from prison, full of justifications rather than apologies. Jake read it once and asked me to throw it away. She still doesn't get it, he said sadly. Our old house was sold, the proceeds put in trust for our futures. Neither Jake nor I felt any nostalgia driving past our former neighborhood. The community that had failed us that night was no longer home. But new connections formed. The Morrisons became family friends, having us over for holidays and helping with college preparations. My teachers rallied around me, ensuring I didn't fall behind academically despite missing weeks of school. Aunt Lisa, though overwhelmed by suddenly caring for 2 teenagers, provided the stable, loving environment we'd been missing for years. Recovery wasn't linear. There were setbacks and difficult days when the trauma felt overwhelming. But gradually, with therapy and support, I began to heal. The nightmares became less frequent. My feet regained most of their feeling. Most importantly, I learned to trust again, not blindly but carefully, thoughtfully. On graduation day, I stood before my classmates as valedictorian, sharing my story of survival and resilience. Sometimes the shelter you start with fails you, I said, and you have to build your own. The night I was locked out taught me that closed doors can lead to open ones if you keep looking. Sometimes it's strangers who become family. Sometimes it's discovering strength within yourself you never knew existed. The applause was thunderous, but what mattered most were Jake's proud tears and the supportive smiles from my chosen family, Aunt Lisa, the Morrisons, my teachers, and the therapist who'd helped me heal. That fall, I started at State University with a full scholarship and additional support funds. Jake, now 14 and thriving under Aunt Lisa's care, visits me on weekends. Our unusual family arrangement works, built on love rather than obligation, on choice rather than blood relation. I still have no contact with my mother, who completed her sentence last month but hasn't reached out. Whether we'll ever rebuild any relationship remains an open question, one I'm not ready to answer. What I know with certainty is that the girl who knocked desperately on doors during that blizzard found more than physical shelter. She found emotional sanctuary, genuine family, and the strength to rebuild from broken pieces. Today, I'm studying social work, inspired partly by my own experience with the system that helped save me. I want to help other kids who find themselves in impossible situations, who need someone to open the door when everyone else turns away. My feet still tingle sometimes when it's cold, a permanent reminder of that night. But instead of dwelling on the trauma, I focus on what came after: the kindness of strangers, the love of chosen family, and the discovery that even after the coldest night, warmth returns. The Morrison family saved my life that night, but they gave me something even more precious. They showed me that home isn't always where you start, but where you finally feel safe enough to become who you're meant to be. And sometimes, just sometimes, the worst thing that happens to you can open the door to the life you were always supposed to live. If you're facing your own impossible situation, remember, keep knocking. Somewhere, someone is waiting to open the door.